Hey there, David Gordon from TheaterMania here. I've got three people joining me today. Derek Wilson, Laila Robbins, Sean Hudock. We're talking about Macbeth, a surround sound experiment, which is being presented online this Halloween weekend. It is a really cool sounding audio play. And I'm just going to jump right in. Sean, tell me about the origin of this project.
The project started with our mutual friend Joe Disher, who we all know, we've all known for many, many years. We were sitting around a bonfire in July in his backyard, and we were, lamenting the pandemic and work and how much work we didn't have. And we're just sort of thinking about, a way that we could both give back to the community and sort of take advantage of, the restrictions of the pandemic, us all being in isolation. And, was there a project that we could work on that would sort of give back, but also be fulfilling artistically? And so we both sort of had this moment where we were like, well, what about the Scottish play? And we kind of went away for a little bit. And then I'd heard a theater company that I love in Texas called Amphibian Stage. They had done an audio production of Julia Pastrana, which is a play that's meant to be done in the dark. And it was this sort of really cool experience where, you put your headphones on, you sat in the dark. And I thought that this play in particular, both the resonance, but also, the themes and, there's just so much about Macbeth that could have just been applied really kind of well to the immersive, soundscape quality that I thought would be really cool to explore in the pandemic. So that's where it all started. And then we just kind of went from there. Joe called up everyone he knew who he wanted to work on Macbeth with, and Derek and Laila emerged.
I was going to say, is that how you guys got involved, Derek and Laila?
Yeah, it was a phone call from Joe. Just said, would you be interested in this? And mentioning, that it was going to be, which Sean, I'm sure we'll talk about, that it was going to be for the Actors Fund, to raise money for the Actors Fund. That was important to me, and that was sort of, the signed it for me. So.
Yes, it was a phone call from Joe, and we all know each other from the Shakespeare Theater of New Jersey, run by the wonderful Bonnie Monty. And Joe Disher started his career, as an apprentice. In fact, the first summer I worked at New Jersey Shakes, Joe was, he'll be offended. He wasn't an apprentice. He was an intern. Excuse me. He was an intern who picked me up at the bus station before there was even a train to Madison, New Jersey. He picked me up at the bus and took me to my housing. That's when I first met Joe. So knowing him for 1,000 years, when he makes the call and says, "Hey, you want to work on this thing with me?" I jumped at the chance, and he's developed into such a beautiful director over the years. I always think of him as a teenage boy, but he's a wonderful director. And he said, "Jump," and we said, "How high?" That's how we do with Joe.
What was have you guys done audio theater before, or was this all of your first times doing something like this?
I think it's my first.
Yeah, I had done, because of the pandemic, I had done two previous to this with a company called Shakespeare At.
Right.
And so that was, I felt very experienced by the time this came around. I was like, yeah, I know how to do this now. So, in
fact, when we were first starting, I had never done anything on audio before. This was a brand new experience for myself, and even our sound designer. We've never done anything recorded over Zoom. We called Derek, and because of his experience, and Derek was really sort of like laid the groundwork for us. He was like, "This is how we should record it. We're going to do it this way." And gosh, we saved so much time. Just the big thing for us was not recording it over Zoom or through Zoom, because the quality is so terrible. We wanted to get clean, crisp, clear, evergreen audio. So, the challenge was, how do we get that in isolation?
Yes, in fact, the only time we all were together was the first read-through, as I recall. So there were many, many, many of us in our little Zoom boxes. And Derek, you were set up. I noticed you had the big microphone, and you were standing there, and you were wearing like a tank top because you knew you were going to sweat by doing this. I was like, that guy ready.
I think I really scared my dog.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
Did it take some time getting used to the fact that you weren't like responding to another person, that you were just recording your own stuff or doing small scenes?
Well, yes. I mean, it's just a different beast. I don't even look at the screen when I'm doing this. I just listen. So I feel like I'm with other people, and they're just voices. Because this is constricting to me, the screen, the boxes. So I don't even look at that. But yeah, it's certainly not like being on stage with them. But I try to sort of imagine it as much as possible when I'm doing this.
Laila, you're playing all three of the weird sisters.
Yeah.
How did you differentiate between the three of them over audio?
Well, I mean, Joe and Sean and I all talked about that quite a bit, how to make them distinctive and how to make them specific. So, there was talk of like different ages, actually three sisters at different ages, and also different personalities. And so these voices we started experimenting with different sounds of who should be who, and who should be the more aggressive one, who should be the more frail one, who should be the one who's still in the prime of her life and doing witchy things, So we really made them very specific. And I think that was really helpful to really find the parameters of who each of them are. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, we played around a lot, to find our way.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was fun.
Sean, I know this is being used with something called 3D audio for the non tech savvy people. What does that mean? What does it require from viewers, listeners?
Yeah, well, it doesn't require much from listeners except a pair of headphones. It can be any pair that you'd like. A better pair obviously will make the audio sound better. But the 3D audio idea is that you as the audience are literally in the center of the action, and things sort of happen around you in space as much as possible. So for instance, with a lot of Laila's stuff, because she's playing three different characters, you'll literally hear them on different sides of the room. You'll even hear one character maybe even cross in to a cauldron and drop something into the pot. So that's the idea of 3D, is that you are, as the audience, immersed in the sound. It's helpful if you turn the lights off so that your imagination is stimulated and you don't have a screen or anything. You're just literally listening to the audio. But it doesn't require anything from the audience. What it required from us, though, again, was to get as clean and crisp of a sound as possible, so that we could really manipulate people and sound like someone is yelling from the other side of the room, or people are hovering above you, or someone's maybe breathing down your neck.
Is this the time to bring up the famous "Are we arriving on horses" scene?
Yeah, I was literally just going to say the horses.
It took about 3 hours to discuss, as I recall.
Yeah.
So are we on horses or not? Because it really affects my performance.
Yeah, it really affects my breath as I get off the horse. Ultimately, we didn't go with horses, right?
No, I think we did.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, the horses.
Right.
They're pretty cool. We're talking about this. There's one scene where Macbeth and Banquo arrive on horseback, and Will Padilla, our sound designer and engineer, has created a situation where it sounds like you're literally on horses with them as they're talking to each other. So we had that in our budget. Horses were in our budget for this one. We have some sheep in there. Sheep are in our budget.
It's a very intelligent question to ask that I never would have thought of. Does it need to sound like I'm coming off a horse? Because that would sound differently than like walking up or something. I never would have thought of that until you started talking about it.
Well, yeah, and it involves a lot of this when you're talking.
Special skills, right?
It sounds like you guys had a lot of fun putting together this creepy as hell play.
Yes.
It was actually quite a lot of fun. I really, it was a lot of fun.
That's what they say, David, about when you're doing a dramatic play on stage,
Mhm.
that often the rehearsals are really funny because you've got to sort of balance that yin and yang thing.
Yeah.
And then when you're working on a comedy, it's quite serious because comedy can be so precise. Like if you're doing noises off or something like that,
Right.
it's so like technical and sharp and boom, boom, boom. So it's kind of serious. And then the play is super funny. So it's almost like the opposite sometimes.
Had you guys ever done this particular play before, or was this all of your first experiences actually acting in it?
Well, my partner Robert Cuccioli and I did it for the Shakespeare Theater of New Jersey. Years ago. I can't remember exactly when that was. So we did it together. And I'm gonna plug Bob's show. Robert Cuccioli is on the irishrep.org. There the next week is Touch of the Poet.
I was gonna say
Grab your tickets now.
I'm looking forward to watching that too. I'm looking forward to seeing how a Eugene O'Neill play works over Zoom.
Yeah. I know. Oxymoron.
Never have imagined.
Yeah.
He's turning in his grave, right?
Derek, you did it on Broadway, right? You were.
I did. Yeah, I played Lennox on Broadway, and I understudied Ethan Hawke.
Oh right, yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Is it as creepy a play to do as we think of it as, or is the assumptions, the superstitions that are associated with it, do they not factor in when you're actually doing it?
I think it. Well, it's fun to do. I love this play, and then you could. For me, I've been in 2 productions, and you sort of forget about the superstitions because you're just focused on doing a play. But then things start happening, and you're like, oh wait, this is it. This is the thing. This is the I mean, the one that I did at Lincoln Center, I don't think had a lot of stuff, but I'd done one a long time ago at the Shakespeare Theater in DC, and there were some really strange things around that production, which I won't go into, but just little little weird things. So I don't know. It sort of insinuates itself sometimes. The curse. I don't know.
I mean, they say that the witches' curses are real curses. Which actually, when Joe asked me to do the Weird Sisters, I was like, let me think about this, because I would be actually doing the real incantations. But also the Scottish play has a lot of sword fighting, and a lot of sword fighting in the dark. And things can happen when you're wielding swords in the dark.
Yeah.
So I don't know if those are some of the things, Derek, that were going on with your.
I mean, there were some injuries, but even beyond that, just weird little, just weird little things. There's a neighborhood in Washington D.C. that has all the streets are named like Burnham Wood Drive and Dunsinane Lane or something, and there were things that happened with some. It's too much to go into, but. It became a part of something that happened to one of the actors in that production. That was weird.
Sean, I want to talk about the benefit nature of this because it is a benefit for the Actors Fund. $13, which is really nice and you would think that's affordable now, which is really, really nice for people to listen to. There are like gift packages. I know. I don't know that they could be shipped and sent at this point, but you'll be able to tell me about that.
Sure. Yeah. We partnered with my friends at McClure's, who make the most amazing pickles, but they also make an amazing Bloody Mary mix. And this amazing witch store up in Salem called House Witch. And they were providing items for a premium package, which you could pay a little bit more money and have the items shipped directly to you. So we had a bunch of those, which was great. We've had some people come in and sponsor / underwrite to help us raise money for the Actors Fund. And then, $13 ticket. I mean, it was really important that this was accessible too, that people were going to be able to listen to it because, it's hard enough to get people into the theater and to sit and listen to Shakespeare, but this is quite different, and we wanted to make sure that people could enjoy it as opposed to it being a barrier to entry. So yeah, I mean we've gotten a lot of enthusiasm from all around the world. I mean, people from Scotland and Indonesia are buying tickets. I mean, it's pretty great. It's I think people are really rallying around the cry for help. Our industry needs help.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we don't have the government support that we need. So it's up to us to step up and do what we can.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I, for one, I'm very excited to listen to it. October 30th, 31st, and November 1st, right?
That's correct. Yep, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And we can find it. So it's knockatthegate.com is where people can find it. Yeah. Thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah.
Be well. Thanks everybody for watching. Take care.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.